Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mom Interrupted. Now today's recording is a little different and a little meta, if you will, like two podcasters sitting together. So this is Sarah. She is the voice and the heart behind the Make It Work podcast. She's interviewed dozens of women on the intersection of ambition and motherhood. She is a former Silicon Valley professional, turned podcaster, consultant, and community builder. All right, so we're going to talk about a bunch of things covering motherhood, identity, the tension of holding a career, and growing a family as well.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah.
I'm really excited to be here because I think it's going to be a great conversation. I have my questions to ask you as well. As a community builder, an influencer, and all the interesting things that you didn't think you would be after becoming a mom.
Very bizarre. Very bizarre how you got here. Yes. So maybe first start, let's talk about podcasting. Since I've not actually sat down and had a conversation with another podcaster before.
This is always the first.
How do you think you've evolved from the very first episode to today?
Yeah, so the very first episode, I was actually using a borrowed microphone, and the microphone was my guest's microphone. So that was very interesting. Like
In person.
Yeah. No, actually it was not. It was online and it was a bit of a mess because she was too close to the camera, but we just made it work. Her name is Fanny Lim. That episode still one of the top episodes. I think, because she's made such a big impact in her community. Like she used to run Daughters of Tomorrow. It's like an NGO.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, that helps disadvantaged moms. And so she ran it, and that was her story. Straight out of stay-home mother. Well, not straight out. She spent like 7 years as a stay-home mom, and she did volunteer work to eventually lead this organization. And now she's picking up leadership roles in different parts of charity sectors. I really wanted to get that story of how people make these transitions, or at least how these moms who have so much drive and so much to give, how they make these transitions. And she was someone who really embodied that. Yeah, so anyway, back to like who I was back then.
Yeah.
I think I was in the midst of, I was in my peak wilderness period. So that was, now 3 years, because it's 2003 that I started the podcast, and I was essentially going through a lot of transitions myself. I was a new mom for a second time. We had just moved back from the US, the 5-6 years overseas. So it was navigating a new but familiar kind of landscape. And also it was post-COVID. So a lot of things had changed. Friends had moved on, and I had to plug in again into Singapore society, like this cultural, social norms and everything. Yeah. And work-wise, that was a big question mark for me, because I basically lost my job just before I gave birth to my second one. I was figuring it out. I was trying to figure out like, how was I gonna make it work? I knew I wanted to go back to work, but I didn't want it to be in the same way that it was before. Yeah, so that was how it kind of birthed this whole podcast, because I wanted to talk to women who had made those transitions. So that was my state of mind, the very first one, with a borrowed mic on a very grainy like Zoom interview. And almost 40 episodes later, 2+ years later, multiple different gigs, which I think now I collate as a portfolio career. And now I'm back into full-time since about 6 months ago on a flexible work arrangement. Here I am, and third kid on the way. I don't know if you can see, but
People might be, I think
really
people's blocking it.
crazy, but that's who I am, and what the journey thus far.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know, because like for me, I've always enjoyed conversations. I've always enjoyed one-to-one conversations, even with like most of my friends, I would say, are one-to-one friendships. So it's not really a group friend, like, you know, a group style. Yeah. So it feels pretty natural to me. I think I'm curious as well, so I just naturally wanna find out more from people that I meet. So,
How about you? You know, about like almost 20 episodes in, right?
yeah,
How about you compared to?
wow, the first episode I was sharing with you a bit earlier, positioning was all off. The sound apparently bounced everywhere. My friend's phone was vibrating on the table, so you could hear it. The aircon was really loud. So my husband had to figure out how to get rid of all those sounds.
Yeah.
And even after getting rid of all those sounds, the quality of the audio was still pretty bad.
Okay. Yeah.
That's just you know, like done is better than like perfect. That line.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just do it. And it was like figuring out format as well. I knew obviously there had to be like some research prior to each episode, but I didn't know how much research. Like you don't want to be obviously reading off a script, but you don't want to meander too far off. So it was kind of finding that balance. I think one of the earlier episodes I prepared, it was almost like a thesis or something. I'm like, there's no way. This is just going to be impossible to come across on like, you know, via a conversation. I think I've kind of found that sweet spot.
What about your state of mind? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's evolved as well.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
Yeah.
For one, I've learned to listen better, like listen deeper. Active listening, they call it, right? Definitely had to learn that. Because when I replay like the conversation, I'm like, whoa, I need to like not talk over people and like slow down and like, you know.
It's harder than the editing.
Yeah, exactly. I've learned to listen better, but also I feel like my perspectives of motherhood in general is a lot broader right now. Yeah. Hearing people's stories firsthand and they're sitting in front of me, sharing, opening their hearts to me and all of that. There must be something wrong with you if you don't view it and take it in a very like empathic manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely my eyes are a lot wider in terms of how different women approach motherhood. There's so many ways to do things. It's crazy and it's also amazing. We're now in the age of internet and remote working and all of that.
Yes. So on that topic, do we want to talk about some of these standout moments or truths that we've taken? Because I know that we were exchanging questions, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that was a common kind of question that we had. Yeah, truths that we've taken away from interviewing dozens of moms. For me, okay, I'll start. One of the quotes that I always take away, I really remember at least, is this whole idea of downshifting. And for me, it was a big concept at that point of time because I was not working in the way that I was used to. I wasn't getting a regular paycheck. My identity was like questioned because I have an MBA. I used to be on this corporate career piece, but then now I was not. So like, who am I? So this quote was that when you're downshifting, it's not that you are doing something easier. It's because you're actually navigating a different kind of terrain. And when we use the analogy from driving, right? When we're using a manual car, and that was what I had to use for my exam, basic theory test like 20 years ago, because you're actually going like up a slope, you shift down, right? So it's actually it's a different terrain. And it goes back to the idea that they're just different terrains, different seasons in your life, different periods of time that you need to move at a different pace and do things a bit differently. And that really spoke to me because coming from an environment where I think it's quite controlled in Singapore, like we don't have sequence. Exactly. Like, you wait 15 minutes for MRT and they're like, oh, what's wrong, You have so much like ready and laid out. It was quite confronting when I had to go through all these things that I hadn't really planned in my own life. But then now on retrospect, like looking at it as a season in time where I actually grew and learned so much. I mean, it's also what you make out of it, right? Yeah, it's a lot of this perspective. That quote helped me at that moment. And then now looking back, it's true because it's just a period of time that I was trying to figure things out. And I've learned many new things that have brought me where I am to be able to negotiate for a flex work arrangement kind of thing. For example, find a job that I really wanted and try to draw better boundaries as well to do what I want. So that was one big truth, a quote that like stands out to me when I look back at the, 40 interviews or something that I've had. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like for me, it's about owning your decisions. So like, so okay, maybe I'll share like how I transitioned into being a stay-at-home mom. After my first maternity, I stretched it, and with my leave and everything, I had like 6 months pay essentially. And then I timed it like right at the 5th month mark, like, 1 month notice. I signed my notice. So for me, it was an easy decision to make because at that point in time, I knew that I don't want to leave my daughter, and I wanted to focus my energy on this new identity of mine. But I think in one of your podcasts, you shared about like the internal and external shifts that happens in this transition. So externally, in a sense, my decision was really clear. Like my husband and I decided, we'll do this path. Don't know how long, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, I don't know. So we knew we were going to do that. But internally, because I didn't envision myself being a stay-at-home mom. So internally, I felt like, I don't know, there was almost like a bit of shame, a bit of like embarrassment. Like, it was very strange. But those feelings weren't strong enough to make me not change my mind on that decision.
Yeah.
Right? So after hearing all these stories from moms, you should just own whatever decision you're making at that point in time and be okay with changing your mind too. So I feel like, sometimes people may have this idea that once you've made a decision, you got to stick to it. You can't change your mind. You can't backpedal, or it's like embarrassing if you do that. But it's not. Like, you can just decide you want to do it for 6 months, a year, and then go back to work, and it's okay. Yeah. So I would say owning whatever decision that you make, and being okay if you change your mind down the road. Like, it's totally okay.
Yeah. And knowing that it's not ever permanent. Like, your kid will grow and change. They won't need you so much anymore. They might need to go formal school. So it's easy to see at that point of time and like extrapolate, and I guess questions also from people around us. And I remember when I came back, that was the first question. Like, everyone was like, well, are you back for good? Like, are you going to move? Because
Sounds very primary school.
and they're like, oh yeah, this place, but then they're no good primary school. Then we're gonna. I was like, oh my gosh, everything needs to be planned out totally.
7 years ahead.
Oh yeah, so it felt like that was the frame that I guess we were supposed to be in and answer, and so but the truth is, it's okay to not know, and it works for you right now. I mean, hopefully it's not too much of a strain in terms of the finances or even like support. Like, you have the support that you need to be able to make it work. Just live with open hands a bit more. I think that's what,
Yeah, definitely. That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, talking to people just opens up your perspective. For me, it was quite acutely the whole ambition thing and what work would look like. And that was how I explored the idea of portfolio careers, which I never heard of. I started to go out and meet other people who were figuring things out as well. And I think it also helped that it was an environment where, for better or worse, there were a lot of people in transition, like work-wise, because of like tech layoffs. And post-COVID, people had changed like how they wanted to work also. So some were willing, and some, it was a situation that was thrust upon them. So I found these small communities in women groups, and I talked about it before as well, like this Remarkable Women group and Portfolio Careers Asia that I kind of stumbled upon, that helped with me embracing this gray, liminal period of like not really knowing what to do, because there were so many people also doing that. I think that was helpful because you have more conversations, you just talk to more people, and it clarifies that, okay, you're not alone. And there are resources as well. Like, you can ask people. When I was trying to figure out how to negotiate for flexible work, I would ask in like this women's group, and then people shared their experiences. What's available. And I even talked to someone who used to head up an HR unit, and she gave me a lot of good advice as well. And I met all these people through all these networks. So just like opening it up helped me so much from that point of view of figuring things out. Yeah.
And I think it's also important it's out of our usual circles. So sometimes it's a little bit, it can be echo chambery. So when you get out of there, you hear like fresh perspectives as well. There's also a matter of like, obviously different people's very different experiences, but also seniority too, I suppose. Like, how long people have been working, you know, what are their thoughts and all this. Yeah. So I think definitely broadening your horizons. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about you now 6 years into doing the Parkside Moms really?
No, it's since sixth edition. It's since April last year. So it is still relatively new. So that was actually the brainchild of Mom Collective. So it was actually my daughter's third birthday party that sparked off this whole thing. So her birthday party was held at a park and the setup was just so great. Like everyone was just on mats, like families were on mats, lounging. The kids, we did a couple of like playstations. The kids were happily playing and it was just such a nice atmosphere. And I was like, how do I recreate this like camaraderie without it being a special occasion like a birthday? Yeah, so that got me thinking. And then I was thinking like, play dates, but for moms instead of the focus being for the kids. And it came to what it is right now, which is basically mom circles at a park where there's periphery play setups for kids. So it's essentially still the same. It was just more intentional, I guess. Calling it like a mom circle as opposed to a play date, which is a lot more casual and it gives a different impression. And then I think one of your questions was how like Mom Interrupted came about, like the podcast. So from those mom circles, especially the first one, I remember like people were so raw and honest in person, and I was just like, wow, this is unprecedented. I didn't expect that kind of like response and asking.
We have to ask you what was, you know, that like, raw response that like,
oh wow, I can't remember, but people were just being like really honest, and then you realize that hey, people have been harboring these thoughts too, they've just not really said it out loud. And I guess in that environment where people feel comfortable and safe enough to share, and like obviously those who are present will be moms who are of a certain like-mindedness, right, as in they'd be open to share and reflect. So that setup allowed for these conversations to kind of naturally come out. And it felt like these conversations could go further in a sense. So then that's how I thought of the podcast. And also for moms who want to come, but they can't. So they want to find like some way to be part of the conversation. And the podcast is something that's accessible while you're cleaning the house or on the way to work or whatever. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I would mention actually the themes are quite common, like mom guilt, like I want to be at work, but I also want to be with my kid. I feel like that's a common one that I've always struggled with. The other one that is maybe a bit raw is also, it could be the mental load piece, like how do you have a equity, or what does it look like in today's age where both people could be working, equally educated, maybe earning the same amount and stuff like that.
After all your conversations with all these women, what do you think still feels unresolved?
Unresolved. Actually, I think it's something that I am maybe struggling a little bit more in this season than before, but I always knew that coming back from the US back into Singapore society, I would be back into quite a strict narrative, a straight narrative of like what is the success and what does a good family or mom look like. I felt I would be I'll feel a lot of tension off. So right now, like my kid is kindergarten too, and he's going to primary school already. And I'm feeling a lot of it in the form of questions like, oh, am I, missing out, or is my kid missing out because I'm not giving him these kind of classes, whether it's like Chinese class or enrichment things like music and stuff that we don't really do. I'm feeling that tension already, and I know it's gonna be even more
Pronounced,
going into the mainstream schools and stuff. So I feel like that's one, and I think the theme is about how to live, like how to be thoughtful, and also live sort of swim against a bit of like the tide when you're in the waters. I remember coming back from quite a laissez-faire environment where in the preschool, I thought it was so funny. I would send him, in his own clothes, where he'll come back with other kids' clothes. Like, that would never happen here.
Wow, because that chill. It's like, wow.
The school that we went to was also like very cheap as well. So I guess like we didn't really care about these things, but it was quite funny. So
I can imagine the fuss that would happen here. Like, which clothes are you wearing?
And then everything was just like, okay, they're fed, they are clean, and they're happy. That was the baseline. There was not so much all these syllabus things that we receive today, right? And so that's an example.
Yeah.
And that's something that I constantly feel, because, I mean, these conversations are everywhere, right? Like you meet your friends about the kids, and what you're doing, or what you send them for this and that.
Like people moving to certain schools. Like, as much as you want to have your own vision of how you want their childhood to be, how you want to raise them, there's also the reality, which is this is where we are, this is what the environment will be like, and this is what their peers will be like too. So like how to even begin navigating that?
So I would say that's something that I'm definitely still trying to figure out, to be intentional about the choice. Like, why am I not putting him in these classes, and why am I deciding to spend time in, say, swimming instead of something else, instead of just kind of doing it because everyone's going to do it, and I'm afraid that they would miss out. Is there a better way? But I think it takes effort, it takes work to try and find other options also, because I mean, it's available, right? That is definitely something that I'm trying to figure out. And I think what you said earlier about meeting people outside of your circles, because then you learn like, oh, okay, maybe instead of going for this kind of class, like they could learn it in a different way. Like the language could be taught through speech and drama, for example, instead of like writing and sitting down per se. It takes effort to look for alternatives or talk to people who are not part of your usual circle and things like that. So I think the podcast is one good excuse for me to like learn from other people what they've done and their perspectives.
I'm not looking forward to that. So like my daughter's not in school now, so she goes to forest school once a week. But in my ideal head, like she'll only go to school in primary 1.
Right.
But now I'm like thinking maybe K1 instead, which is like next year.
At least at this early ages, there's still a lot of breath and freedom for you to experiment.
Make decisions,
So could
do it when we can figure it out. So in the race, it's like not coming out. I mean, I guess it can. It'll be a lot trickier.
Yeah, and it's all about like what you teach at home at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that's a little bit underrated. In a landscape where like everybody's busy sending all these different classes and preparing for school and like academics and all of that, maybe we don't talk enough about what goes on at home, and that is the bulk of the time that the kid is in.
Yes.
So
actually, I'd love to hear how you set it up, because you're pretty much keeping your kids at home. They're not in any formal like school. So what does a day look like, or a week look like?
Wow.
Okay, you carve out time for yourself.
How do I come up time for myself? Evergreen question. Well, usually, so my kids wake up late, so they sleep like 9-ish. So they usually wake up around 8-ish, 9, which I know is pretty late. Like a lot of kids wake up at like 7, so they wake up a little bit later. We'll take a very slow breakfast in our kitchen, very slow. And then it's a bit of playtime here or in my daughter's room, and then we'll go downstairs for playground for about an hour. And then we come back up, I'll bathe them, then we get ready for lunch, we do lunch, and then they do more free play. So I don't have like a structured curriculum for the kids. I just do as much reading as I can. I try to read a variety of things. So 1, reading variety of things, and 2, pertaining what their interests are at the moment. So my son is like trucks typical. So at this age, he loves like trucks and vehicles. And then in the afternoon is just free play. They nap if they do. And then evening, usually they get a second round of playground time. So they get like 1 to 2 hours of playground time every day. And then that's kind of it. I try to go out with them maybe once or twice a week in the mornings usually, unless we have some play dates in the afternoon. Yeah, and then their forest school days, now it's like ×2 already because my son just started as well. So just like that, the day is just gone. Yeah, it's pretty fast. It does feel pretty fast. Yeah.
I mean, I see you have like a Montessori sort of open, like set up. Is that kind of what you lean towards? Or do you...
No, no, I guess. So like I try just a bunch of things plucked from different stuff. I try not to have too many like electronic stuff, but we still do have it. Like I think my kids still love it. So open-ended stuff, and I find that the mileage is quite high actually, because like some of these toys, since my daughter's like 1, she's 3 now and she's still playing it.
Right.
So I'm like, it feels like it's an investment, but if she's gonna play with it for like at least 3 years now, it's okay. Yeah. So and then now there's like the brother too. So like the more kids, the greater the mileage. They can buy more toys. That's how we structure our day, I guess. I'm quite hesitant to call it homeschooling because I don't have a curriculum. But I know there's a lot of different homeschool philosophies, and people will be like, as long as you don't send to like a regular school, it's considered homeschool.
You go out with other, I don't know, moms and organize stuff to with a theme in mind or something?
Not really a theme, but like occasions or like specific outings like to the museum or to the park or to the playground, like exploring playgrounds elsewhere. So I do that. And one thing I love about my kids not going to school is being able to go to places on weekdays.
Right.
So the crowd is like, there's no crowd. I love that.
Right. Yeah.
We still do stuff on weekends, obviously, with my husband. So I can really feel the difference in like when we are going to like a play area on a weekday and on a weekend, I'm like, whoa, it's like a huge difference.
So do you have like any special tips or hacks for moms who are available in the week to bring their kids out? Like
go to all the places that are really busy on weekends, like like the zoo, libraries, indoor playgrounds too, if that's up your alley. And usually I think there might be some discounts as well.
Yeah.
Weekday.
So you all were like in this beautiful mountain cap.
Yeah.
That was the ultimate.
That's really nice. That's really nice. Like, yeah. And the kids are so excited about just playing outside, like just playing with the grass, the dirt, sticks, snow. Like they're just happy doing that.
Yeah. Do you see any difference, I suppose, with kids who don't go to structured preschool like yours versus those who do? Have you observed anything?
Yeah, I think I do. I have seen friends' kids who kind of like blossom after going to school. So if previously they're more clingy or they're a bit more reserved, but after going to school, they like open up because they are used to being around peers. So I've seen that shift too. So that's been quite interesting. So I would say my daughter's a bit more, I think she's more okay with doing things her way. Yeah. So there's still like the peer comparisons for sure. She'll be like, oh, but my friend has this toy or this book or whatever. But for the most part, I think she's quite comfortable doing things her way or playing with her things or liking what she likes. And I think maybe it's because she's not really in a peer environment for an extended amount of time. So she's kind of like used to deciding things herself.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I want to ask you that question that you asked me about if anything still feels unresolved for you, or something that you feel the tension in the season, mother.
The ambition piece. So like, as much as obviously I've come to terms and accepted that, this is what I want to do right now, being with my kids as much as possible, the flexibility, I wouldn't want that to change in any shape or form. But then wanting to revisit the ambition piece, which I guess Mom Collective has also like kickstarted that. Because then like now there's so many elements to play with what I'm trying to do with Mom Collective. Like I used to write and read quite a bit. So then I stopped for, while working and all that. So now I'm like, even though it's just like captions or posts or whatever, it's still like writing. So I've enjoyed that. So I get to like revisit that. And it's different if you're writing in a journal versus if you're publishing it. So if you're publishing it, you kind of have to accept that even if you don't like it, or when you revisit like 2 weeks later, you're like, oh God, that line is horrible or whatever. You just kind of have to accept it and confront it head on and be like, okay, I would have written it differently and so on and so forth. So it's still like owning this phase in a way, but getting to revisit the ambition piece and kind of like marrying it to the parts of myself that took a backseat kind of. Yeah. So that has been kind of nice.
I'm so curious. What were you doing before that?
Before, like professionally, work-wise? Okay, so I was in finance for about 5 years. And then I went to public service. So public service is more like business development, helping companies going overseas to expand their businesses. So they've all been like customer centric. So it's always been about like customers and so I think that holds true all the way to like whatever I'm trying to do right now, customer front facing.
So ambition now.
Yeah. Interesting, huh?
Yeah. And I guess the question is, what does it look like? Ambition, is it that you have to be donning a suit and being in the office? I mean, you could have equal ambition and drive in growing your own thing, right? Which is like the Parkside Circles or this mom collective, overall brand. And I guess that's where you're channeling a lot of that drive.
I am, and it's also like still always, I think it's always a period of recalibrating. Probably around, I would say, June, July, August last year. I felt like I was like really full steam ahead. Like it was a bit much. To the point where I told my husband, like, okay, I think I need to like calm down. And then he was like, yeah, I'm glad you noticed it. I didn't want to have to say it that like, you're not putting your kids to school, but you're not really being like that present. So it's always like a process of like recalibrating and realizing that yes, I want to pursue these things, I want to do it too, but what am I not willing to sacrifice? So if I usually spend, I don't know, like 5-6 hours with my kids, maybe I'm willing to cut it down to like 3 or 4, maybe twice a week. But any less than that, like I'm not willing to let that go. So it's kind of like balancing that. So that has been interesting, because even though it sounds like a work, it's still how I spend my time.
Right.
Like if I'm here in this playroom, but I'm on my phone or iPad, am I really spending time with the kids? So
Yeah, I agree. I think it was quite a shift for me, especially moving from my like freelance consulting with health tech startups to actually going into a corporate job where before, and I still have it in my calendar though, I would go to the playground every day at the end of the day before, but now I just don't anymore. And like being okay with that and finding ways to make the time count like elsewhere, right? So for me, it would be having a Friday just off work and like focusing on myself, having a meal with my husband who was also off on Fridays, very thankfully.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So we can actually have that like time together, and for me to like work on my side project or like the podcast and stuff. The other thing is going to school earlier on Friday to pick them up, making every Friday like Friday out kind of thing, that we'll go to the beach or something earlier.
Much better than somebody else like you, right?
Yes, I agree. So finding new ways to make it work with the constraints that we have, and I think being okay and owning a bit like sad that I used to be able to pick them up and do the playground thing, but not anymore. But it's fine. I really try to be present when they're at home, taking out the phone so that they're fully there, right? You have just different things that we need to do to adjust with the seasons.
Yeah.
But also be true to yourself, right? It's that tension of trying to be true to the different parts of you. Yeah. The mom that wants to just be there to see the first time your kid, like, runs everything or whatever, right? And the mom that wants to own something and build something, to meet other people outside. And so it's it's a constant, I feel, battle. So
it is. Like when I was pregnant with my second, I was trying to find a job. So I considered going. I mean, I was puffing about and like, do I want to? Do I not want to? And then by the time I decided yes, I wanted to, I was pregnant, and I'm like, okay, so I don't really have much time because then I need to be working in the company for X amount of time before I get maternity. So then I had like, okay, 2 months to like really try. I think it was about 2 months. Yeah, I went for a bunch of interviews and everything, but it didn't work out. But on hindsight, I'm like, yeah, it didn't work out for a reason. Yeah, but I was also like ready to try and embrace it and not be so simplistic in that like, oh, I had so much time with my daughter, I wouldn't have with my second kid. It's not that, you know. Yeah, I was simplistic. So I was like, different kid, different circumstances. I was exploring that. I would start getting remote interviews first. So I have to be in the room. And it was before Mom Collective. So prior to that, I was always available to my daughter. So suddenly when I had to take like interviews in my room, she was just so confused. At that point in time, she was probably 1-ish before she turned 2. She must have been so confused, right? Like Mama's always available. Yeah. Where is she now? Why is she in the room? Yeah.
Do you have any like resources or books or articles, things that have helped you in this journey? Well, I'll share one that I've found quite helpful, and it's this lady called Neha Roach. She's
I know her. Yeah, the in between season. Yeah, what would you call
the Power Pod?
Yes.
That's not really helpful.
Yeah,
I mean, she has a great way with words, right?
Yeah, she does.
Like give the season and this tension really like beautifully carved. We're talking about like how it's a pause that actually become more powerful, and you're learning different skill sets, and there are different very practical ways to still be in touch with it, whether it's volunteering your school's parents group or just maybe lending help for your friend's website. And like in this case, you are creating this connection with different moms that you obviously really enjoy and derive a lot of growth and joy from. So
there's a newsletter, I think it's called Two Truths. They talk about motherhood in a nuanced way, so kind of like what she does as well. I felt at that point in time, it's not very polarizing. It felt like there wasn't much on this messy middle. Yeah, it felt like you had to either be like the first time working mom, navigating how to pump in the office, like you need to put it in a timetable. There's all these practical, there's all these practical nuggets. And then at the same time, there's a total flip side, like the whole romanticizing, like being a stay-at-home mom and going back to being really feminine. Homeschooling and all this like homestead stuff. I felt like it was a bit of a one or the other. And there were lots of things about being home with the kids that I didn't like the cleaning and the chores. I only got a helper when I had my second kid. So prior to that, all the cleaning, like I did not enjoy that. Like, I know some people find it therapeutic. I'm not one of those people.
Most of us are not. Most of our husbands are not.
Like that's not glamorous. And I didn't identify with like I'm so mom, I'm so tired and I look homeless or whatever. I personally enjoy dressing up and makeup and all of that. And I guess in some ways, I don't know whether I was projecting it on people but I felt like some people around me were kind of judging the fact that I didn't go back to work. I remember there was someone who was like, so you just quit your job? And like in a way that was, maybe it could have just been like pure shock.
Yes.
But because of how I was feeling in that period of time, it kind of felt like, why are you asking me in that manner? What is it to you? You're an acquaintance, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, so I don't know. So there was a lot of stuff to unpack, right?
Yeah, I think when you go off script, and we know the Singapore script, right? I mean, everything's incentivized for you to go back to work. You get subsidies if you're working, etc., etc. Yeah, I mean, I also experienced that during that period of time, and I was like, oh no, I had all these titles. I used to have this paycheck. Now I'm just a mom. That's because people to question. But then I was thankful because I had lived in a place where actually the question was, the same where like, oh, so what are you going to do after you give birth? But the expectation was different. I spent 4 years in Louisville, Kentucky, which is a very...
That's a very interesting place. Like it's sort of like a city, like it's like a big city thing.
Yes. Yeah, I was working for a San Francisco company, but and for the first year I was right smack in San Francisco. But then after that we moved for my husband's studies, which is another story. But it was a place where you didn't see the same kind of drive or ambition. And so a lot of people were having kids in their early 20s, and when they're my age in the 30s, they already had like 2, 3, 4 kids. The moms were more of the stay home, and some would be homeschooling, but the expectation was almost for the mom to be
Not what? Yeah.
So
That's quite refreshing. Like
it was, but it was like, I want to like, hey, where are my moms? You know, my ambitious moms, where are yours? I created like this women's mentorship program for women in tech because I wanted to be with other women like that.
Like-minded women. I get it.
Yeah. And that was the Singaporean me, or just like the okay, like career planner person. Trying to find community in a place that didn't have that. But because it was such a different environment, the question I would receive that after having kids is like, the expectation was almost that you would be at home. Yeah, I mean, this was Bible Belt, right? And so that was quite typical. And then when you ask the question here back in Singapore, it's more like, oh, when you go back to work, that's the expectation, right? So you realize actually a lot of these are cultural, and that's like the right way. It's just that it's the waters that people are living in. And there are different kind of, I guess you would say, like models that are being put on a pedestal in different places, right? That mom who cooks the best meals, organic food, right? But then over here, like
3 fresh cooked meals a day. Like,
the mom here who maybe is like killing it at work and also like somehow has 2 very intelligent
to go to like Ivy League.
You just realize like, okay, they're just different cultural, models that you see, and you have to question it. Like, it's like constantly question it. If not, you'll end up with like questions like, oh, like that kind of.
But I think it's harder when you're not with the main stream. If you're not in the main current of wherever you are, and you resist it, I think that's a bit harder. So if the norm is to be A and you do B, you're gonna feel the tension more. Or I don't know, like some can view it the absolute different way. I hear from some people who have lived overseas, but they feel like they cling on to their culture and their home more so when they're overseas. So they become more Malay, more Muslim, more Singaporean when they're overseas as opposed to back home. Like that's interesting, right?
It's quite fascinating. And I've also noticed that where some traditions that Asians more in California would have, like sending their kids to Chinese school only.
Was a lot of people do, but like here you're like, huh?
Very much. Becoming a bit more tightly like identifying it as a certain because of the
lack of trust.
So interesting. That was definitely very interesting. But then having like lived in the Bay Area and then also somewhere like Midwesty and then now back in Singapore, it's like, you pick the things that serve you and you resonate with. I mean, ultimately, I still definitely like very much identify with feeling like Singaporean and Chinese with like, high bar excellent and for better, I was still looking at external things as like indicators of success, right? I mean, as long as I think we're aware of it and we're thoughtful about it, and also, like you say, be open to others who are not, say, following that script, and like being curious, right? Like, oh, so you decided to take a break, even though you were at this peak, like. Oh, tell me more, like what led you to the decision and stuff. So, I mean, I guess that's where our podcast is. Exactly. Learn how, people are thinking.
And I think like another thing is also understanding the trade-offs. So sometimes when, let's say in the period of time when I decided that I wanted to stay home, and then I felt like maybe I was projecting to people and it just felt like people were judging me for not continuing to work. Whether it was or was not, I could just hold on true to what are my trade-offs. So for example, I decided to stay home, I spend all day with my kid. I literally see every single milestone. Like, I don't miss anything. And that is what I have. And the trade-off is that I don't have like a monthly salary. Maybe whether it's perceived or not, and you feel like there's all these judgments or whatever around the decisions that you make in parenthood or in motherhood, maybe when people don't process the trade-offs, it's easier for it to feel like people are judging you in a negative manner. But if everyone were to realize there's a trade-off with every decision that you make, then you'll be like, yeah, so that's not a perfect decision either. It's just what that person chose, and that person is sacrificing ABC. So, someone who does another thing is sacrificing something else.
Yeah.
So if we view it in a lens that there is no perfect decision and there's always something being sacrificed, I think we will be a bit more
You're right.
at peace.
Yeah, because there's a value that you are not attached to, like you say, seeing your kid's first milestone, right, for everything, like compared to your monthly paycheck.
Yeah.
Like you can value that because you can put a number, but something that obviously gives you so much joy and value, but it's hard because it's not like quantifiable in the same way. But you're right, to be able to see it that way. And I think also that was another lesson that I also learned through the podcast. See these trade-offs as something like investment also into yourself, or maybe skill set or your experience, right? Yeah. So you're spending so much time with the Moms Collective, for example. In return, you are actually building all these different skill sets, like community building and knowing how to motivate people to pay for something. And that's like a really good skill that at some point, like when you go back to work, if you go back to work, you can be helpful for you, like marketing, social media, right? Like, God, social media is another animal. Yeah. So I think see it as like an investment in learning, and that's the trick, right? To like turn it into something that would be value adding to the paper resume. Yeah. For when you want to go back.
Oh, this is another like hot take. Like, I'm just thinking about like the conversations that I've had on the podcast. I feel like because I'm seeing, I'm not trying to like read too much into it, but I feel like from these conversations, you kind of get like the essence of people, and you get like how they're motivated by different things and how they are pursuing, like, ultimately for the most part, growth in all these different ways. And accumulating that first-hand experience of people who are into growth, I think you will also be discerning and see people who are not pursuing growth. Yeah, so that helps you discern. I mean, I'm not saying like don't talk to them or whatever, but I feel like I can discern that there are certain essence. To a certain degree. Yeah, because I'm seeing all these people who are pursuing whatever they're pursuing, their side hustles, whatever, but there's an element of growth. So then you can kind of like,
I totally resonate with that. I like that. Right. Yeah, that radar of like people who are always wanting to grow and develop and be okay with failing versus
failing openly.
Those who, I mean, maybe they're not there yet, right? Like they're maybe thinking about it or feeling more of the fear and holding back. And you're right. I think with all these moms that I've met, people sometimes had to be thrust into that situation. I felt like I was a bit of that, like suddenly no job, then new country. Some of it was chosen. And then second kid, like it just throws you into a tizzy and you don't know what to do. And you have to figure out like, okay, a way to get out. You always have growth there. For people who just maybe are in a place where they're a bit more comfortable and just like, they feel there's too much trade-off, right? To be able to try something different or to maybe leave the job that they've really hated for the longest time, for example. Yeah, you're right. I think that's a definitely common denominator. Right? Like for my husband, I would say, and I love him so much. But I think the best thing that has happened in his past year, his 40th year, is him getting a pretty bad health report because we get free health screening. And that like totally woke him up to start doing more like workouts. And my gosh, like his level of energy is
Now
really,
it's very different.
yeah, day to night. So I'm like so thankful because we definitely need more energy with another baby. But I feel so much more at peace or at least at ease that he can take it, because I think that was one of the big reasons why I was also I was quite nervous about having a thing, because I'm like, I don't know if he can take it because he's already dying now too. But wow, thank God for that bad support.
Wow, interesting, huh?
Like sometimes
Like just shock, the shock factor.
yeah. So like sometimes you just have to respond to like this thing that you have no choice. You have to do it. You grow, okay? Then
Do you think you as a first time, like anticipating your first and now anticipating your third, are very different?
Oh,
Must be, right? Like
pretty different. I mean, when going into my first pregnancy, I literally thought the only thing that would change is my lifestyle, like the logistics, the external things, like okay, maybe weekends cannot meet friends, you know, just maybe more tired, I can't exercise as much and all that. But I didn't expect all the internal shifts. The first time mom Sarah versus third time mom Sarah couldn't be any more different. The first time mom Sarah thought that the only thing that would change was the lifestyle and like logistics. Like I would probably need more help. I mean, I was right, but like really just a fraction of it, because there was so much more that changed. Just all these internal changes that took place in me, regard to how I look at myself and my work and what I expected of my husband. Like all these things came out without really me expecting.
say a lot.
It's so much, yeah. And I think also through in the fact that there was that whole transition back to Singapore with no job, that also definitely made me question a lot of like who I saw myself, what does success mean if I didn't have all these external things again, and feeling the tension of like wanting to be that good mom, always around or bringing them playground every day, that kind of thing. So I think that was the biggest shift. And I think this whole idea of like matrescence, I learned about it actually through a guest on the podcast. I didn't know that there will be all these internal shifts and that there was a word.
Chemical shifts.
Yeah, like your brain, your hormones. It just was something I had no idea. I don't know why I didn't like expect it. Maybe like, I'll feel different, but
Not this different.
that's okay. And I wouldn't have been able to prepare for it anyway, I suppose.
Yeah, like now you have everything ready. You're keeping it really, really simple.
I'm definitely keeping it more simple. I think knowing what is important, but I think there's still the part of me that like still wants to hold on to breastfeeding them for the first year, which is what I did for the first year, even though it was not very fun for me. It did not come easy. There's still things that I'm like, I really want to do it, but I don't know if I can. I should, because there's also more to be
handled. Like,
but then I feel bad, guilty. Like, then this things is, I don't know. So we shall see. But the other piece that I think is also a big part of who I am is my faith. And I mean, you're also a woman of faith, right? And I think becoming a mom has definitely deepened my faith and seen like the object of my faith, like God as like the only constant, I guess, in the midst of everything. And has given me so much more clarity about what it means to just be, at least for me, like a child of God, like be just loved by Him for who I am and not like what I can do or produce or earn or achieve. Yeah, because it's already, He's already loved me before. And I see that for myself and my kid also, like, they don't need to earn all that. Right? Yeah. I mean, they shouldn't. Like, that was very problematic. Exactly. Yeah. So I think, that's something that has really resonated. And
definitely. Yeah, like I've always believed, but I've like not in the way when I was pregnant with my first. So when I was pregnant with my first, it just felt like a whole spiritual shift. Like it suddenly felt so clear to me. Like I wanted to pray everything, even those that were not compulsory. I just felt like inclined to do it, or it felt very easy to do. Yeah, so it felt, I don't know, it felt a very like a very strong, yeah, it felt very natural, and the compulsion to do all these other things that I didn't do before was very strong. Yeah. And then come motherhood, I think initially I would say I was quite type A mother. Like I wanted to get like the best brand for whatever, and like deep dive into all the research and like compare, like, is it really worth it? Like I was like doing all of that like weird nonsense. Sorry, not offense to anybody who does it.
I have a spreadsheet on like diapers and how much each one costs.
Yeah, so okay, I didn't do that, but I did, like, I felt that I spent a lot of time researching on all these different categories and components and whatever.
Okay.
And then I realized that I need to learn to surrender like a lot more. So I think that's what, especially like with my first kid, I learned that I really need to surrender. Yeah. So that was freeing.
Yeah.
Realizing that a lot of things are not within our control. There's only so much we can do and research and plan, but ultimately, yeah, it's beyond us. So liberating, very liberating. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice way to end the conversation, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Any last any last questions?
I guess we can ask my signature question, which is like,
Sure.
we have it all.
Yeah, we have it all. I would say no. I would actually say no. Yeah. I think it goes back to what I mentioned about trade-offs and recognizing what would be missing with every decision that you make, not in a sense of fear of missing out, but just in a very practical sense. When you do this, it means you can't do A. Like you can't do something else. And I understand the whole premise of you can have it all, just not all at the same time. But I understand that. But I feel like that may be a bit too optimistic. Like at some point, we are not going to equally split everything so fairly. Like it's not like life is a pie and there's like 5 main components and it's going to be 20% at any point in time. So I feel like you can't, and you'll just have to be okay with that.
Right. Yeah. I like it. I mean, it's a question, that everyone's asked, and I love your answers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It was really fun. Yeah, it was really fun. No painting, but still fun.
I know. I think we can like be that mess. I wouldn't be able to answer.
And like, I don't know, like, so you're just so fussy.
Yes.